I was sitting at my kitchen counter in Columbus, Ohio, half listening to the dishwasher hum, when my phone buzzed. One notification. Then, another. I picked it up without thinking, thumb already tired before my brain caught up. My sister had posted a photo of me. Of us. It took a second to register because my eyes kept snagging on the caption first. When mistakes raise mistakes. Black text. Casual. Cruel. My full name tag. My daughter's face clear and uncovered, like consent had never even crossed her mind. In the photo, I'm slumped on a curb outside our townhouse, hair pulled back too tight, shoulders sagging the way they do when exhaustion finally wins. My 8-year-old is beside me, cross-legged, drawing a rainbow in chalk on the sidewalk. I remember that afternoon. It was quiet. Rarely quiet. She was humming to herself, tongue tucked between her teeth, completely unbothered by the world. I thought no one was watching. I hadn't known a picture was taken, but my sister had it, and she used it like a blade. The comments came fast. Old classmates, distant relatives, a neighbor I waved to every morning. Laughing emojis. Bless her heart. This is just sad. Each line landed heavier than the last. Then I saw the light. Dozens of them. My parents' names were there. My hands started shaking so badly I had to set the phone down on the counter. In the living room, my daughter was laughing at a cartoon, bright and loud and safe, for now. And I sat there, staring at the screen, realizing something cold and final. This wasn't a joke. This was humiliation. And they were enjoying it. I remember that afternoon clearly because nothing about it was dramatic. That was the point. My daughter and I were sitting on the curb outside our townhouse, the concrete still warm from the sun. She was on her knees, tongue tucked into the corner of her mouth, dragging a piece of blue chalk across the pavement like it mattered more than anything else in the world. I was exhausted, bone-tired in the way only single parents understand, but for once my shoulders weren't tight. The street was quiet. No sirens. No arguing. Just chalk dust and a half-finished rainbow. That moment was ours. A small pocket of peace in a stretch of weeks that had been nothing but bills, schedules, and survival. I didn't know someone was watching. I didn't hear a camera click. I didn't consent to that moment leaving the sidewalk. So when I saw the photo later, cropped just right, my tired face frozen, my child's face clear and exposed, it felt like being punched from behind. Not because I looked worn. I was worn. But because something tender had been stripped of its meaning and turned sharp, weaponized. Used to make a point that wasn't even about me anymore. That photo wasn't proof of failure. It was proof of effort, of love, of a mother sitting down on the ground because her kid wanted company while she colored the world brighter than it really was. Seeing it mocked, captioned, shared, it felt like betrayal layered on betrayal. Like someone had reached into my chest, pulled out a quiet human moment, and held it up for strangers to laugh at. And I realized then how dangerous it is when people who know your soft spots decide to aim straight for them. The comments came fast, faster than my brain could keep up with. I watched them stack beneath the posts like a tide I couldn't outrun. Names I recognized. Faces I'd grown up with. People who'd sat at my parents' table, who'd hugged my daughter at birthday parties. Suddenly typing like cruelty was a group activity. Classic Serena. Well, what did she expect? This is just sad. Then the laughing emojis. The fake sympathy. The bless her heart comments that weren't blessings at all. Just knives wrapped in lace. I felt my body lock up, like someone had flipped a switch. My fingers went numb around my phone. My chest felt hollow. Air moving in and out, but not reaching anything important. What shocked me most wasn't the words. It was the speed. How quickly people joined in like they'd been waiting for permission. One comment invited another. A like became a green light. Within minutes. It wasn't one person knocking me. It was a crowd. And the crowd felt confident. Comfortable. Almost cheerful. I scrolled even though every instinct screamed to stop. I saw an old classmate I hadn't spoken to in years. An aunt who once told me I was so strong. A neighbor who borrowed sugar from me last summer. Each name landed like a small betrayal, stacking on top of the last until I couldn't tell which one hurt most. My face burned, but I wasn't crying. I was frozen. Sitting on my couch in my own living room, watching strangers and family alike reduce my life, and my child, to a punchline. That was the moment it hit me. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This was a pile-on. And once it started, no one was trying to stop it. I scrolled again, slower this time, like maybe my eyes had made it up the first time. They hadn't. There it was, my mom's name, a little laughing reaction, glowing blue under the post. My dad's account right after it. Another like. Another silent nod of approval. My stomach dropped so hard it felt physical, like I'd missed a step on a staircase. For a second, I honestly thought maybe they hadn't read it. Maybe they'd just seen my face, their granddaughter's face, and tapped without thinking. But the caption was right there. Bigot mama. Cruel. Impossible to miss. When mistakes raise mistakes. And still, they clicked laugh. That was the moment something in me went cold. These were the same people who used to tell me, family stays out of it, whenever my sister crossed a line. The same people who preached about grace, about keeping things private, about not embarrassing each other online. Turns out those rules only applied when I was the one being hurt. I thought about my mom holding my daughter as a newborn, whispering how perfect she was. I thought about my dad teaching her how to ride a bike, jogging behind her with his hands out like he could catch her from anything. And now here they were, watching strangers call her a mistake, and laughing along like it was a joke at a barbecue. I set my phone down on the kitchen counter because my hands were shaking too much to hold it. From the living room I could hear my daughter laughing at some cartoon, high and carefree. She was safe. She was happy. And the people who were supposed to protect that had chosen entertainment instead. That's when it finally hit me. They weren't staying neutral. They were choosing a side. And it wasn't ours. I was standing in the kitchen doorway when I heard her laugh. That full-body, unguarded laugh kids have when the world still feels safe. My daughter was curled up on the couch, legs tucked under her, a half-empty bowl of goldfish balanced on her lap. The TV glowed with some loud, colorful cartoon. Talking animals, impossible physics, a joke that clearly landed because she threw her head back and laughed again. She had no idea. My phone was still in my hand, screen dark now, but the words burned behind my eyes anyway. When mistakes raise mistakes. My stomach twisted as I watched her kick her feet in rhythm with the theme song, humming along, completely untouched by what strangers, and worse, family, were saying about her online. I remember thinking how unfair it was, that the internet knew her face, before it knew her heart. That people could scroll past a photo of an 8-year-old drawing chalk rainbows on a curb, and decide she was a punchline. A mistake. Content. I wanted to scoop her up, hide her somewhere offline, wrap her in a bubble where comment sections couldn't reach. But she just kept laughing, pointing at the screen, asking, "Mom, did you see that?" Like this was the most important moment in the world. I smiled back, because that's what moms do. My hands were shaking, but I kept my voice steady. "Yeah, baby, I saw." Inside, panic crawled up my spine. Not loud panic, quiet, focused fear. The kind that sharpens everything. Because she didn't know she was being targeted, and I did. And in that moment, something hardened in me. I realized protecting her wasn't about explaining cruelty. It was about making sure she never had to grow up thinking she deserved it. I sat there with my phone in my hand, frozen, trying to understand a question my mind kept circling, but couldn't land on. How does a grown adult look at an 8-year-old and decide she's fair game? My daughter was in the next room, cross-legged on the rug, humming along to a cartoon theme song, while coloring outside the lines on purpose. Because that's what kids do when they feel safe. Her laugh drifted down the hallway, light and careless. Meanwhile, strangers and relatives alike were laughing at her existence online, reducing her to a punchline like she was an abstract idea instead of a real child with scraped knees and bedtime routines. I kept scrolling, my thumb moving even though my stomach was begging me to stop. Laughing emojis. Bless her heart. Comments that pretended to be jokes, but landed like stones. And all I could think was, she doesn't know any of this. She doesn't know adults are capable of this kind of cruelty. She still believes the world bends toward kindness by default. That's what broke me, not the insult aimed at me, but the realization that some people never hesitate to weaponize innocence if it gives them a moment of power. I wanted to scream. I wanted to report the post, call my sister, throw my phone across the room. Instead, I sat there, numb, listening to my daughter laugh, feeling like my body was stuck in cement while my heart tried to outrun the truth. Because once you see that someone is willing to mock a child, you understand something terrifyingly clear. This isn't drama. It isn't immaturity. It's a complete absence of empathy. And in that moment, I knew I wasn't just hurt, I was standing at the edge of a line I could never uncross again. Natalie's comment was the one that actually broke me. Not the strangers. Not the laughing emojis. Not even my sister's caption. It was seeing my cousin pause long enough to type, "This is what happens when you treat family like crap and expect handouts." She even started it with, "Use my cousin," but like she needed to establish credibility before cutting me open. I felt it land in my chest, sharp and deliberate. That comment didn't just insult me. It rewrote the story. In one sentence, Natalie turned theft into generosity, boundaries into cruelty, and my refusal to be used into some kind of moral failure. Suddenly I wasn't a single mom protecting her child. I was the villain. The ungrateful one. The problem everyone could finally point to and feel righteous about. I stared at the screen, my thumb hovering, my pulse loud in my ears. I wanted to reply. I wanted to list facts, dates, dollar amounts. The night my card declined at Target, while my daughter stood next to me holding cereal. I wanted to remind her that saying no isn't abuse. That being related doesn't mean being owned. But I didn't type anything. Because I recognized the tone. Natalie wasn't confused. She was performing. That comment wasn't for me. It was for the audience. A stamp of approval that told everyone else it was okay to keep laughing. Okay to keep piling on. Okay to treat my life like a cautionary tale instead of a human one. And the worst part? I knew exactly why it hurt so much. Because when it comes from family, shame feels official. Like it's been notarized. That was the moment I understood something clearly for the first time. They didn't want the truth. They wanted permission. And Natalie gave it to them. I didn't find out the real reason right away. At first, the post just felt cruel, random, loud, unnecessary. But cruelty like that is never random. It always comes from somewhere. 2 weeks earlier, my sister had called me while I was sitting in the Target parking lot, engine off, scrolling emails before picking my daughter up from aftercare. She didn't ask how we were. She didn't ask how work was going. She went straight to it. "I need money," she said. "For a car." Not "can you help?" Not "would you consider?" Just need. She told me this time was different. She was trying to get her life together. New job, fresh start. All she needed was a little help to get back on her feet. I'd heard that exact sentence before so many times it practically echoed. I stared at the steering wheel, the dashboard blinking low fuel, and felt that familiar heaviness settle in my chest. The truth was, I was tired. Tired of being the safety net. Tired of being treated like an ATM with a pulse. The last time I helped her, she didn't just fail to pay me back, she stole from me. $600 gone from my account without a word, discovered only when my card was declined at the grocery store checkout. So this time, I said no. My voice didn't shake. I didn't explain myself. I just said, "I can't do that." The silence on the line went sharp, cold. I knew I'd crossed an invisible line, the one where generosity turns into defiance. I didn't feel powerful afterward. I felt wary, like someone who'd just locked a door and was waiting to hear if the handle would start rattling. Now, I understood. The Facebook post wasn't a joke. It was punishment. I still remember the exact moment it happened, because humiliation has a way of freezing time. I was standing in the checkout line at a Kroger on a Tuesday evening, the kind of errand squeezed in after work, my daughter already tired in the cart seat, swinging her legs and humming to herself. Nothing dramatic. Milk, bread, cereal, a frozen pizza I promised we'd share on the couch. The conveyor belt beeped, the cashier smiled, and I slid my debit card through the reader without thinking. Declined. I laughed automatically, the way you do when you assume it's a glitch. Sorry, could you try again? I said, already reaching for the card. Same result. Declined. The smile on the cashier's face tightened. A man behind me cleared his throat. My daughter looked up, confused. I checked my phone right there, hands shaking just enough to notice. My balance didn't make sense. There it was, an ATM withdrawal from earlier that afternoon. $600. Cash. My stomach dropped so fast it felt like missing a step in the dark. I knew before I wanted to know. I finished paying with a credit card I'd been saving for emergencies, my face burning as the line moved around me like water. In the car, I sat there longer than necessary, staring at the steering wheel, while my daughter asked if I was okay. I told her I was just tired. I didn't confront my sister that night. I told myself she'd explain. That there had to be a mistake. That patience would fix it. But deep down, beneath the embarrassment and the tight, angry knot in my chest, I already understood the truth. She hadn't just taken money. She'd taken my sense of safety, and left me standing under fluorescent lights, trying not to cry in front of strangers. I told myself I was doing the right thing by waiting. By not confronting her right away. I remember sitting on the edge of my bed that night, my phone face down, heart pounding, rehearsing conversations I never actually planned to have. I wanted to believe she'd walk into my room on her own, eyes lowered, voice small, and say, "I messed up. I'm sorry." I wanted that version of my sister so badly that I built silence around it and called it patience. Every day I waited felt heavier. I checked my bank app too often, like the numbers might rearrange themselves if I stared long enough. When she laughed in the kitchen, or asked what was for dinner, like nothing had happened, I told myself she was nervous, ashamed, getting ready to tell the truth. That lie, mine, not hers, kept me quiet. Now, looking back, that's the part that makes my stomach twist. Not that she stole from me. Not even that she lied. It's that I gave her cover. I protected her from consequences while letting myself carry the weight alone. I mistook hope for maturity. I confused silence with grace. The moment I finally saw the withdrawal receipt, at cash, clear as day, something cracked. It wasn't loud. It was cold. Like realizing the room you've been waiting in is empty, and always has been. She wasn't planning to confess. She was counting on me not wanting a scene. I didn't lose my innocence that day. I lost a story I'd been telling myself, that if I stayed calm enough, loving enough, she'd choose to be better. The bitterness came later, sharp and specific. Not just at her but at myself, for hoping where there was never any intention to meet me halfway. I transferred the money back into my account at 11:47 p.m., sitting at my kitchen counter with the lights off, the glow from my laptop reflecting off the window like a second, colder version of myself. $600. Such a small number compared to what it cost me to do it. My hands shook when I made the call to the police. Not dramatic, not hysterical, just steady enough to sound like someone who already knew how this would end. The officer was polite, neutral. Another theft report in a long night. When I hung up, I sat there listening to the hum of the refrigerator, wondering when my chest would stop feeling so tight. It didn't take long. By morning, my phone was vibrating nonstop. My sister left a voicemail crying so hard she could barely breathe. My mother followed with a text that said, "How could you do this to your own family?" My father didn't even bother pretending. "You went too far." Too far. Not her, taking my debit card. Not the ATM withdrawal I discovered in the grocery store line when my card declined in front of strangers. Not the way she smiled at me across the table later like nothing had happened. No, the real crime was that I refused to swallow it quietly. By noon, the story had been rewritten without me. I was heartless, vindictive, cold. The sister who called the cops over a misunderstanding. Every message carried the same subtext: you broke the rules. You made us look bad. I sat on my couch reading it all, feeling something crack and settle at the same time. I wasn't shocked by their anger. I was hurt by how easily they flipped the script, how fast the victim became the villain the moment she spoke up. That's when I understood it clearly. In my family, silence was loyalty, and telling the truth made me disposable. I didn't understand it all at once. At first, it felt like shock, like walking into a room where everyone suddenly stops talking. But the longer I stared at that Facebook post, the more the truth settled into my chest, cold and sharp. This wasn't a joke. It wasn't my sister being careless or cruel in a thoughtless way. This was intentional, calculated. Revenge, delivered with a smile and a public audience. The caption wasn't random. The timing wasn't random. 2 weeks earlier, I had said no to her money request. I had finally stopped covering for her, stopped pretending her messes weren't bleeding into my life. And now here she was, turning my exhaustion and my child's innocence into evidence against me. Proof, in her mind, that I deserved punishment. I scrolled slowly, my thumbs stiff, reading comments like I was reading a police report about my own life. Each laugh reacted, each, well, what did you expect, felt rehearsed. Like she'd opened a door and invited everyone to hurt us for her. What made my skin crawl wasn't just the cruelty, it was the confidence. She knew people would pile on. She knew no one would stop her. And she was right. My hands were shaking, but my heart was eerily steady. That scared me. Anger burned under my ribs, hot and focused, mixed with something darker. This wasn't sibling rivalry. This wasn't family drama. This was someone willing to sacrifice an 8-year-old's dignity to win an argument. That's when it clicked. I wasn't dealing with hurt feelings. I was dealing with someone who enjoyed hurting. And once I understood that, something inside me locked into place. I stopped hoping she'd take it down. I stopped wishing my family would defend me. I realized this wasn't about misunderstanding anymore. It was about survival. I kept refreshing the screen like it might blink and fix itself. Comments stacked higher. Laughing emojis multiplied. Names I recognized. Names I didn't. And still, nothing from Ethan. We'd been separated 6 months. Papers drafted. Calendar invite sent. Everything about us already labeled almost over. I told myself that meant I shouldn't expect anything from him. But expectation isn't logical. It's muscle memory. The part of you that still flinches toward the person who once promised to stand beside you. My phone sat heavy in my hand. No text. No comment. No, this isn't okay. Just silence. I knew he was online. I could see it. Green dot glowing next to his name like a quiet taunt. He was watching it happen. Watching my sister call my child a mistake. Watching strangers and relatives laugh like this was entertainment, not our lives. And he chose not to step in. That hurt more than the comments. Because I didn't expect protection from my family anymore. They'd made their position clear. But Ethan, he'd seen me cry on bathroom floors. He'd held our daughter when she was born. He knew exactly how fragile I was pretending not to be. I sat there alone on the couch, the TV off, the room too quiet, listening to my daughter laugh in the other room, at a cartoon that still believed the world was kind. I wanted to scream. I wanted to throw my phone across the room. Mostly, I wanted one sentence. Just one. Enough. But it never came. And in that silence, something settled in my chest. Cold? Final. Not anger, acceptance. The kind that teaches you who is willing to let you bleed in public, as long as it doesn't inconvenience them. I set the phone down and realized something awful and clarifying at the same time. I was completely alone. Or so I thought. I was still sitting at the kitchen table, my phone face down beside a cold mug of coffee, when it buzzed again. Not a message. A notification. Ethan Halbrook posted a photo. My chest tightened before I even opened it. We hadn't spoken in weeks, 6 months of separation reduced to logistics and silence. I tapped the screen anyway. There was no caption. No explanation. Just the image. My sister, in broad daylight, walking hand in hand with a man who was very much not her husband. The angle was clean, unmistakable. No blur, no filter, no mercy. They were outside a gas station off a familiar highway, the kind you stop at without thinking, which somehow made it worse. Ordinary places don't usually hold explosions like that. I recognized him instantly. Darren Cole. Married. 2 kids. The man my sister used to babysit for years ago. My ears started ringing, my heart pounding so hard I had to grip the edge of the table to steady myself. The reactions hit fast. Faster than before. Isn't that guy married? Wait, wasn't she their babysitter? Karma works fast. I didn't smile. I didn't feel relief. What I felt was something sharper and stranger, balance. Like the room had finally leveled after being tilted for too long. For the first time since my daughter had been called a mistake in public, the weight wasn't only on my chest. Then, suddenly, silence. My sister's comment section froze. Likes vanished. My parents' reactions disappeared. It was like watching people scramble to wipe fingerprints off glass. I stared at the screen, hands trembling, and realized something important. Ethan hadn't posted to save me. He hadn't done it to win anything back. He'd done it because he saw the line they crossed, and refused to let them cross it alone. And for the first time that day, I could finally breathe. The silence came suddenly. Violently. 1 minute my screen was alive, comments stacking, laughing, emojis multiplying, names I'd known my whole life typing without hesitation. Then it stopped. I refreshed. Nothing moved. I watched the evidence disappear in real time. Likes vanished first. My mother's reaction blinked out like it had never been there. Then my father's. Natalie's comment, gone. An uncle's rant erased mid-sentence. It was like watching people wipe fingerprints off glass after realizing the room had cameras. I kept refreshing, my thumbs steady, my face calm. I didn't feel relief. I didn't feel vindicated. I felt cold. Clear. This wasn't regret. It was panic. They weren't sorry for what they'd said. They were scared of being seen saying it. New comments appeared, but they weren't from family anymore. Strangers. Old classmate. People who didn't know us personally but recognized cruelty when it showed its face. That escalated fast. Guess you shouldn't throw stones. Each line felt like a spotlight my family suddenly couldn't stand. I thought about how loud they'd been an hour earlier. How confident. How eager to humiliate me and my child in public. And now, watching them quietly delete and retreat, I understood something I hadn't before. This is who they were when consequences arrived. I set my phone face down on the kitchen table and listened to my daughter laughing at a cartoon in the other room. The sound anchored me. Whatever game my family was playing online, I wasn't part of it anymore. They could erase comments. They couldn't erase intent. And for the first time that day, I wasn't shaking. I wasn't scrambling. I was steady. Because once you see people rush to hide their cruelty, you stop mistaking silence for innocence. I didn't think it could get worse than being humiliated online, but the next morning proved me wrong. I had just dropped my daughter off at school when cars started filling my driveway, my sisters, my parents, even an aunt who only shows up when there's chaos to feed on. They didn't come to talk. They came to pressure, to shout, to rewrite the story in their favor. My sister pounded on the door like she owned the house, screaming that I'd ruined her life. Someone knocked over the ceramic bird feeder my daughter painted last summer. When it shattered, something in me did too. I was standing frozen in the hallway when I heard another engine pull up. Ethan's truck. He stepped out calm, like this was just another errand on his way home. No yelling. No threats. He walked past my dad, knocked once, and I opened the door. He stood between me and the noise, steady as a wall. Later, inside, he held up my engagement ring, the one that had vanished from my nightstand. My sister had tried to sell it. A coworker recognized it and called him. "I wanted you to have the choice," he said, setting it down gently, like it still mattered. That night, after the shouting faded and the cars disappeared, I did something quiet but final. I blocked them all. Deleted the group chats. Removed myself from their digital reach. No speeches. No explanations. Thanksgiving came, and we didn't go anywhere. We made boxed mac and cheese, watched cartoons, laughed at nothing. Ethan stayed. Not as a grand gesture, but as a decision we were both willing to try again. I didn't lose my family. They lost access, to me, to my child, to the life we're rebuilding without cruelty.